Good evening and welcome to Beyond the Front Page, a show brought to you by QU Community College. It's shown on Spectrum, Verizon Fios, as well as ARMA, the Auburn Regional Media Access, and Win 89.1, the college's radio station. I'm your host, Guy Cosentino. We are delighted to have back in the studio the Director of Education for the Seward House Museum, Dr. Jeffrey Ludwig. We've asked him to come back on every spring to talk about the museum opening back up after a little bit of a pause where they retool and everything. To talk about what programs are coming up in the coming year. But more importantly, we also are going to end the show talking about the 1825 visit of the Marquis de Lafayette, who came to Auburn. And you can see a plaque commemorating it on the corner of the Auburn Public Theater, if you haven't ever noticed it as you've been walking around. But want to welcome you back in the studio. Great to see you.
Thank you. I must be really spring now because I'm here and the museum opened today.
And open today. You did your first tours this morning.
I got the first tour of the year under my belt, and actually I'm glad for it. You shake a little rust off. You wouldn't think that having 2 months off would be a long time. You don't forget your facts. It's sort of your transitions and how do you do the entirety of the Seward family story in an hour.
So were they local people or people from outside the area?
2 from Rochester and 2 from Albany, both going down towards Ithaca and made a destination of Auburn on the way there, so we like to see that.
Do people set up tours in advance?
We can. In fact, now that we're back open, we encourage visitors. Occasionally, we'll have some of our public tours closed for field trips or group tours or pre-reservations. So if anybody wants to learn about how to book a tour in advance, our website, sewardhouse.org. It's very easy, actually. There's a drop-down, you book a tour, you pick the day, you pick the time, you're guaranteed the spots you want. But I would never discourage anybody from just giving us a call, putting their names down, or really walking in. Most of the time is pretty safe.
So we're still in winter, as you know.
Yes.
When do you start getting the bulk of your school? Because this is a fourth graders that are...
Fourth grade's the big one.
Okay, so when do they start en masse coming down?
In May. May and June. So we still do the Passport to History program, which means every fourth grader from all 5 of the city schools in Auburn, they all plan to come. We host them. The Equal Rights Heritage Center hosts them. All the historic sites take part.
So what do you tell fourth graders? They're about 8, 9 years old.
Well, the nice thing about the Passport program is they have something tangible. They're holding in their hands an actual, what looks like a legitimate passport. And every site in Auburn is on there. They get a stamp at every one, but to get that stamp, they have to learn 5 things. And ours include questions about the Underground Railroad and Alaska and Abraham Lincoln. So it's kind of like an Easter egg hunt. They're very motivated, and we try, when I'm giving tours to them, I like to begin by letting them know that they're very special. They're living here in history's hometown, and there are all these sites at their fingertips, but many people come from all over the state, the country, and the world to be able to experience this kind of history because this place matters so much and the people whose lives intersected with Auburn mattered so much that what they get as a school field trip is what so many come from so far to see. So I try to impress how lucky we are to be in history's hometown and that what they have right here in their backyard is something that draws people from thousands of miles away.
And so when they, I know if you go to the Baseball Hall of Fame, been there way too much time in the last 4 years, they do a scavenger hunt of, I think you have to answer 10 or 15 questions. You get baseball cards at the end, or 2 baseball cards. It's the stamp for you guys.
You get to, but if you get your full passport stamp done, there are prizes. So everybody who does the full passport complement, they're gonna win something nice.
So who's on the passport? Not that you're promoting everybody else here, but who else?
Right, it really is all the historic sites. When they come to downtown, within a really short little radius, they can get to us, get their stamp. The Equal Rights Heritage Center, City Hall participates, but of course the QU Museum of History and Art, the Schweinfurth, Willard Chapel, Seymour Library is a part of the passport. They go to Harriet Tubman sites. So that's 8 right there, and that's just a short radius. Circle.
And is it only 8 or 10 that they have?
I think it is the 8 this year.
Okay, all right. Because I remember doing them over at City Hall until we got in trouble because we took them up to the bell tower and apparently you're not supposed to walk kids again across planks.
I once got to take kids up there too, and they let me ring the bell. I really enjoyed that.
It is. In winter, and it's really cold, it's a beautiful view of, you can see Owasco Lake and most of Fort Hill in there. So besides the Seward House.
I didn't get to go that high up. I was at the bottom of the rope.
Oh no, you got to go up there. Well, that was where you're not supposed to take 8-year-olds up there. So been closed for 2 months, and
Yes.
people think, wait, did you just go on vacation? No, 2 months is a ritual. So your last events, if I remember correctly, are the candlelight tours.
Correct.
You do some Christmas stuff. You have the all community historical day on a Sunday.
Yep.
You shut down, and what goes on then?
It's a good question, and we get asked that all the time, and people still occasionally call and come up, and in February we can be flexible and try to book groups by appointment, but that really is our reset, retool time. So we are running 6 days a week from really the end of May all the way through the end of September. It's a lot of foot traffic. We try to set our exhibits, set our interpretation at the start of every year.
When you say 6 days a week, because you close on Mondays.
Close on Mondays.
So people can go in on Sundays. You're full on the weekends.
Yes, Sundays in the summer for 4 months a year. And anybody who wants to get one of these newsletters, Guy and I have them. They're at the front desk at Seward House Museum. It's got our full schedule on there, lots of great
Or
information.
more importantly, you can become a member
That's
of
right.
the Seward House.
That would be great.
There's family membership. So the one I have is obviously because we get at our house, and it's always chock full of calendar events. And I'm going to ask you some things about this. But how much is a membership for somebody who wants to just join and support a local historic operation?
It's very affordable. Senior students of all levels is $30, individuals are $50, dual is $60, family is $70. We have some enhanced memberships at higher levels. I urge people now, and I use this myself, if you start at the attorney at law level, which is $125 a year, which gives you membership to the museum with free entrance, you get a lot of perks, you get 10% off, you get guest passes. You're also enrolled in something called NARM, the North American Reciprocal Association of Museums. And there are museums all across the country. Whenever I travel now,
So you can go free to their
free to them.
Okay.
Reciprocal admission to hundreds of museums. Anytime I travel, my first thing is I go to NARM, I see what's going to get me in for free with this membership. It's a great benefit.
Because there's 4 of you going usually when you're traveling.
Yes, yeah, my wife and my 2 sons.
So speaking of, skipping around a little bit here, you just, in the magazine, you've mentioned this Blue Star program, which Blue Star Museums. What is that program?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. And you know, one of the things we also do during this time is we write our newsletters and we get our programming calendar all set. Blue Star is a great program. It provides free entrance and admission to active duty military to the museum.
And so what's it stand for?
Blue Star Families, it dates back, I think, to the 1930s. It's a program to honor current active duty. It's just a benefit to show hundreds of museums participate in it. The appreciation and gratitude.
And
for
is
those
the
who are
benefit
serving.
that you just get in for free?
Get in for free and bring your family.
And so how do you identify that you're a Blue Star family?
Well, we take people's word for it. I mean, I would never question anybody. But it's a full program. They have membership cards.
Okay. So let's go back to just operations. Tuesday through Saturday right now. You'll go to Sunday. What are the operating hours?
I'm glad you asked. We are still, as many of your viewers will know, on our hourly tour model. First tour every morning takes off at 10 o'clock. Takes about an hour to do them. Last one every day is at 4 o'clock. So we're running 7 tours a day, 5 days a week during the spring and the fall. And then we add on 4 tours on Sundays in the summertime.
And if I'm doing my math correctly, you are about ready to celebrate your 10th anniversary?
This summer. I can't believe I've
Okay.
been in Auburn for 10 years already. When I got here, my oldest son was a baby, and now he's about to go into middle school. So that's how fast time goes. You know this.
I know that. Well, no, I know he's a Stingray, and you've got a 4-year-old?
Almost 4.
Almost 4. So what are your responsibilities besides most likely helping you get this newsletter out? The Diplomatic Pouch, which is a cool name, by the way.
It is a cool name.
But,
Well, I do. Everyone kind of jokes that education is the fun job at the Seward House Museum, and I think that's absolutely true. We get to work to build our amazing volunteer program. If anybody watching might be interested, you can learn more on our website or come in and talk about it. Most visitors from out of town are never going to meet me. They're not going to meet staff. They're going to have their entire experience facilitated by a well-trained volunteer at our front desk, giving tours, even make the gardens and grounds look good. So we run and manage that
you rely
program.
on a lot of volunteers.
We do. They gave us almost 4,000 hours last year. So add that up, it's,
It's 2 full-time
just
jobs.
about 2 full-time staff people. giving the tours and assisting with operations. We run our internship program. Your niece, Madison, was one of our great interns not that long ago. So we are already right now working with the colleges, trying to figure out, for whom does a Seward House internship make sense, museum professionals.
So you bring up the internship. I was going to get to this because I know you got a new hire, and we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
But on the intern, because he was an intern,
Yep.
On the internships, you rely heavily on interns.
In the summertime, we do.
So how many interns do you usually have in a given summer?
3 to 6. Last year, we were at about the largest we could accommodate, because every intern that comes on gets a lot of hands-on training. There's an orientation day, about a 2-week training process with a learning curve, one-on-one mentoring with staff, figuring out which department they fit in most with, identifying a big project, and then really it's 8 weeks then on the ground. It's just summertime only.
Right.
Giving tours, working front end, developing projects. Some of them are really interested more in back end stuff, which means, for those of you, I'm using the technical terms, they want to do collections, they want to be curators, they want to be with the objects, or they want to do facilities, they want to learn about the landscape. I know, it's most of them think they want to do,
right.
But as we were talking about earlier, I really do think education is the most fun, and the reason for that is we really set the tone on the stories that we tell, that we highlight, that we select, that we interpret, that we share with the public.
So how does someone, now I know Madison is in museum studies in Rochester, so she obviously had a local connection here. She knew as a kid growing up here with her grandparents. How do interns come about? What's the process, and are you starting this process now, or are you done?
We're taking applications now through early April, actually. So we keep a running list of department chairs and contacts. We send them a call for applications letter. In my 10 years, I've seen it go from that, sort of a pushing paper, to it's much more automated. There's a program called Handshake. People at CCC will know about this. And it populates the campuses across New York and the country. We would listen to applications from anywhere. With these opportunities, they can apply through Handshake.
Are they paid?
They are paid.
Okay.
And sometimes the funding will come from different sources. I don't recall whether now Madison, she may have gotten hers from her college, but we make all of our interns paid internships.
Okay, and so give me a project that somebody, not Madison, we'll leave her alone for a second. Tell me last summer, what was a project or two?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So we had 2 interns who were very interested in collections. So they did a lot of digitization. So the Seward House has more than 16,000 objects, and only a small fraction can be on display at any one time. So getting good digital quality copies posted to the website, the stories of it, to kind of build a database.
So if I go to the Seward House website today, what do I have access to, and is it all free?
It's all free. And if you're on the Seward House webpage, again, that's sewardhouse.org. There's a number of tabs along the top. One of them is collections. It'll drop you down or take you to a collections landing page. You can explore fine arts, decorative arts, furniture, clothing, and textiles.
So what about, I know there's a number of books, and if you go to eBay, you can buy small bound ones of his speeches.
Yeah.
William Seward's speeches. Are those digitized at this stage, that if somebody wanted to go see what he said on the Senate floor in 1857?
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
So you can almost always find the speech you're looking for if you do some hunting. In Seward's own lifetime, these are the easiest to find. He had an aide or personal secretary, a man named George Baker, who basically followed him around, was part of his office, professional staff. And every so often, Seward would have all of his works published. But of course, this was a curated set, the best speeches, kind of the greatest hits. So the hits are very easy to find. And some of the lesser known speeches, or maybe speeches that didn't age well, as we would say today, or he was less proud of, or less central, those are the ones that you would have to likely, if you couldn't find them in some deep place of the internet, you can get copies at the University of Rochester. You can find them, and even in his lesser speeches, Seward would have printed as pamphlets or circulars. So those exist and often will surface, but it can be a little bit of a needle in a haystack.
And just, because you can almost find anything, well, you can find anything at Amazon, as we know, but that's new stuff, hopefully. When it comes to eBay, there's a lot of stuff out there that claims to be, or there are older books. I know I've searched, and You can buy a 50-page book. It's a beautifully bound book, but it was bound in 1870.
Yeah.
And who knows what the price is. That type of stuff, do you try to acquire those things? Or do you hope that people will gift them to you?
More the latter. Occasionally, people will call the museum and say, we've got this great copy. Maybe they've got a Benjamin Hall History of Auburn or something like that.
Very hard to find.
Hard to find.
It is.
I got a digital copy of that because it's just so much easier. And then a digital copy, I mean, as much as I love bound copy and a hardcover book, you can keyword search a digital copy. And I was talking to a guy before we started airing about researching Seward and canals. And if I can keyword search every book, it just makes my life as a researcher faster. Though I do miss things. So occasionally, yes, more that people will come to us with offers of things that they've encountered or inherited than us actively seeking out.
Do you get a lot of those offers?
Our director of collections would know better than I feel like maybe a couple a month that will contact us.
That is a lot.
Yeah. I just want to have a conversation. I have this. Do you have this? What is? And often we do. It'll be maybe a Seward autobiography set, for example, the 3-volume set. We've got plenty of original copies of that. And we'll tell them what we have it, but it's cool that you do too, and somebody will want it.
Oh, I remember you had copies of, is it Frederickson's?
Yeah, the
autobiography?
Yep, he has. It's called Reminiscences of a Wartime Diplomat.
Right, goes for about $30 on eBay. Not that I checked.
Yes.
But you had copies of that. So are those copies that you just had lying around, or somebody donated and said, listen, sell them and make resin?
Yeah.
I'm not sure that necessarily a book. But you have a beautiful gift store.
We do.
And if you're a member, you get a discount.
That's all comes back to membership. That's very good.
I want to get back to how large a staff do you have?
Well, I think we're going to talk about how we've grown. We were at 7 for a long time, and as of January 2025, we are fortunate to be a staff of 8 full-time.
And so who's the new person?
So it comes back to the internship program. His name is Walker Goodemote, and he is, I think he was 1 year behind Madison. We keep coming back to Madison. He was an intern back in 2022.
And then he was a fellow.
And then he was a fellow. So he was a Lemoyne junior when we hired him to be an intern, history major. He was a wonderfully gifted interpreter. I will make a shameless plug now for anybody without plans. Saturday coming up, March 8th. We're part of the Brave Brews Festival. Maybe we won't be.
Well, we are, because we're going to talk about the Real Housewives of Auburn. So
I'll put a pin in that.
I'm wondering if Andy Cohen's going to be here in a moment. But so did he do the Halloween tours? He was fascinating.
He is maybe the best person on staff for doing. I mean, he's got a theatrical background as well as a historian's background.
He was awesome. I think at that point they were all 3 10-year-old boys, and he kept them enthralled all around.
Get your tickets now and ask when Walker's giving the tour. And they're all good, but he's very, very good at that.
And so his job is interpretation and communications coordinator. What does that, by the way?
Right. Well, interpretation is, as I was saying, the fun part of education. It's the storytelling apparatus of the museum. We're going to talk today about Lafayette and choosing stories purposefully. One of the things the Seward House Museum was always doing, but maybe with less dedicated focus than now we can, is bringing our stories online. We talked about interns working on bringing our digital databases up, but I mean, it's not something that everybody in Auburn knows about. We have a Facebook account, we have an Instagram account, we have a YouTube account, and we would try to populate them sort of as an.
But it takes staff resources to do that.
It takes resources, and we had a sort of it takes the village approach. Everyone was helping. In this
Which
new
meant
age,
nobody was in charge.
Yes, now someone is. In this age of new media, you have to be, as they would say, creating content. And so for anybody watching, I would urge you, if you're not already following the Seward House Museum on social media, since he started in January, you'll see a more robust effort. He's posting something daily. He's good at digital editing. And so he's creating really unique, fun, lively, and also educational content. And if I may,
Sure.
Sorry, Guy, one of the things I'm really looking forward to is we get asked all the time, oh, I couldn't go to that program, or, I live far away. Can we live stream them? And we did during COVID. But now
I did do a couple of COVID ones because I also had kids who, a child who could listen to it. So you have got one coming on Ketchikan, Alaska.
Yes.
Walk us through how that works. First of all, what's the program, and then how does it work?
So we are, I think, many of us grew tired of virtual programming in 2020 and 2021, and Seward House certainly moved away from it. With this new position, we'll be getting back. So if we're doing something live in person, we hope to be able to capture it, post it on YouTube, maybe
But
live stream it.
this is not local.
This is not. This is us getting back into the live stream game. So as everyone watching will know, William Seward is perhaps most famous for being the architect of the Alaska Purchase, Seward's Folly. We could spend the rest of our time together doing that history. But long story short, in Alaska still today, there's a state holiday, Seward's Day, commemorating the day of the purchase agreement with Russia. So that's March 30th, which is it's a weekend this year, or maybe it's a Monday. So we are going to get a little ahead of that, and we are going to be taking a virtual field trip with anyone who wants to join us into Ketchikan, Alaska. It's home to a totem pole historical park, as well as a great museum.
If you can't do a cruise.
Yeah, you can't afford a cruise right now, or maybe you don't want to pack into a boat. You can come with us, cost you nothing.
Okay, so how does somebody hook up so that they can participate on that day?
So by March 12th, we will have on our website, again, for anybody just tuning in, sewardhouse.org.
So next Wednesday.
A link, and they can they can register basically for free, and we'll send them a streamable link.
And are there other streamable events? I don't want to get into the authors yet, but are there other streamable events that you have planned at this stage?
This is the first one that we're planning is to be strictly virtual, and so I hope from here we'll go more into hybrid. Walker just came on in January. He's already assembling a sort of a tools wish list. So as anybody watching will know, the gear that we had acquired during COVID is now 4 and 5 years old. That's pretty old for technology. Right. So we are going to sort of build a vision around having this position. So the answer is, the intention is yes. In actuality, we may need a little more time to get up to snuff to be able to bring every single one of these. But my hope is within a few months that everything that we offer will be available in some form digitally.
So this Saturday, so as we're taping this on the 4th, and this will show on the 5th, on the 6th. We'll miss it on the 8th and 9th, but you're having a event with the Real Housewives of Auburn.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll buy. What is it?
It is a really fun, it usually times out to be the first weekend of the year. We've been coordinating for the last few years with the Brave Brews Festival that comes to Auburn. It celebrates women in the craft brewing industry. We actually have fun. We do a historical trivia. We call it temperance tantrums for these craft beverage leaders. And we do basically at Prison City, the farm, we do a temperance movement trivia, and they win prizes. It kicks off the weekend for them. And Lunkenheimer's Brewing out of Weedsport is sponsoring this year. They're giving drink coupons for anybody who comes. And this is kind of the lighter side. It's not drunk history. We're not encouraging that.
I believe the word used in the newsletter was gossipy.
It is gossipy. So as you know,
so tell me more.
As you know, Guy, I won't share the best secrets, but the thousands of letters the Seward family wrote contain all sorts of political insights, but also their opinions on each other, their neighbors. Frances Seward often wrote at the bottom of her letters, "burn after reading," because she knew she could be a little tough on other people. Often they did not burn.
Unfortunately, they
didn't burn the letters. So this is all the stuff that really doesn't make the cut for biography. It is cattiness and pettiness and intrigue and sort of the mini dramas of Auburn in the 19th century. We're mostly focusing on the letters of Frances and her sister Lizette. They were wonderful correspondents. She lived in Canandaigua. So often they are at their most pulpy to each other, and they knew the same people.
So is this something that's live streamed, or this is going to be just at
This is a specialty tour of just
what
the
time?
house. We're doing them at 10, 12, and 2 on
and
Saturday.
Does it cost anything to?
It does. It's a specialty tour price. It's a 90-minute tour with a drink afterwards. It's $18.
That's worth the cost of admission.
I mean, it's a craft beer at the end.
I want to ask you. I want to go to Lafayette because we're not leaving here without having that conversation. But you do have some authors coming in. A Hell of a Storm by David Brown.
Yes.
Is a book talk. I know it's not until May, but what's the book about?
So it is a book on the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854. People are like, oh, yawn. But I mean, it's a great book. He basically writes it as a dress rehearsal for the Civil War. He calls Kansas, Nebraska the most lethal piece of legislation ever passed by Congress. And indeed it was. It's what activates Lincoln back into politics. It basically
Where was Seward on that?
Anti. So
Okay.
Seward's a U.S. Senator from New York, and Stephen Douglas proposes, well, we had all these compromises dating back to the Missouri Compromise. We drew a line in the sand. There'll be freedom north of this line and slavery under it. New territories coming into the Northwest above the line. They want to tear up the old rules, write new rules, and say these lands could be slave lands. Seward's against it, and it is basically a mini Civil War. It's what leads to the caning of Charles Sumner.
So I want to talk about Lafayette. I know you also have on May 16th, you're going to do a ribbon cutting. We'll come to that, but I want to get to Lafayette because we've kind of talked about that on the periphery. Well, first of all, if somebody does not know who Lafayette was, who was the Marquis de Lafayette? And you got about 20 seconds, so make it a thumbnail.
If you haven't seen Hamilton yet, that's a great place to start. He was a French general. He sings in it. French general who served the American Revolution, a hero. Not only did he serve, but he helped bring French intercession into the war to stave off the British.
Thought of to be a son of George Washington, mentally, not physically. Comes back to the United States almost 49 years after the revolution.
Yes.
Well, less than that, 40 years after, but 49 years after the signing of the Declaration of Independence, correct?
Correct.
How long was he supposed to stay?
Couple of months, and he stayed for over a year.
Okay, so he ended up staying that long. He came to Auburn. When did he come to Auburn?
He came to Auburn at the tail end of a very long tour. It was June of 1825. He kicked off his tour much earlier in 1824. It visits all 24 states at the time. He starts in New York, goes up to New England, goes all the way down the coast. He's coming all the way back up from the west, and he's going back towards New York. And he arrives in Auburn very tired, late on June 8th.
And who does he meet with?
He meets with quite a few people, but to my mind, the most interesting connection is, of course, a very young William Henry Seward, 24
Before
years
he's governor, before he's senator, before he's Secretary of State.
He's a young lawyer.
And had he met Seward before?
He had never. And I think Seward is allowed to be a part of this sort of welcoming committee because he's the son-in-law of Elijah Miller, prominent Auburn judge and lawyer.
And do we know what Seward thought of the meeting?
Well, he writes about it many years later with a sort of giddiness still in his voice. He knew this was perhaps the most celebrated man he'd ever met in his lifetime, and he is honored that he's allowed to be part of the guard, and he gets one-on-one time that accompanies Lafayette when he arrives in Auburn almost all the way to Syracuse.
So what are you doing on June 8th? We got about 30 seconds left.
Okay.
So I would love to have you come back just to talk about Lafayette, but what's the plan on June 8th? Or I know some of it's still in works, but that's the celebration, correct?
Yes, that is the celebration. So save the date now. It's in our newsletter. We're still working with the city, the Masons of Auburn, and a really brilliant group, Lafayette 200. Google them. They're bringing in a reenactor who's brilliant. They are recreating the tour step by step, so there will be an incredible performative aspect of it. Hopefully music. We have a new historic marker to accompany the one that already exists, as you know, Guy. The Seward House Museum will be doing an open house all day. There'll be readings of proclamations. It'll be quite a show.
And more details will come out. And how large is the planning group in Auburn?
Right now, I think we're 4 or 5, but it'll get bigger. The partners will keep coming to the table.
Love to have you in before the end of April,
Love that
because
too.
then we could talk about the ribbon cutting as well. All right. This was not what my plan to talk about. We had a couple of other things, but our guest has been Jeff Ludwig, the Director of Education for the Seward House. I always appreciate you coming in here to give us a preview of the coming year. There's a lot of great stuff going on at that historical site. Go online, take a membership out to the Diplomatic Pouch, take part in the anniversary ceremonies, which started last year, and I was in Williamsburg, and they were doing stuff back then. So this is a full year, really looking at the history of Auburn, but also Lafayette's tour. Sarah Vowell, who wrote a book about this, was a speaker for Seward House maybe a decade and a half ago. Occurred in 1825, all worth your time. We will be right back with the chairman, we'll be back on Thursday with 2 Albany updates. Assembly Minority Leader Will Barkley will be in the studio, and then he will be followed by Senator Rachel May. They'll be talking about the state budget. We'll also most likely still be talking about what's going on with the correctional facilities locally. Next week, we'll have in the studio on Tuesday City Manager Jeff Dygert, as well as Assistant City Manager Jennifer Haynes, and the YMCA's Robert Scarborough will be in to give us a Y update. We'd like to let you know that you can send us your ideas for guests or questions. You can send them at cozguytho@aol.com. I'm Guy Cosentino for Q Community College. Have a great evening, and we'll see you back here in the studio on Thursday.